The stars above the Vera system burned quietly, unaware that war was coming again. For weeks, the Galactic Council had begged for help. The Erekar Swarm, a race of living machines that ate everything in their path, had already destroyed 20 worlds. Every fleet that tried to stop them was turned into dust and silence. The Tarkale Dominion, once the strongest empire in the galaxy, was losing. Their ships floated like dead fish in the black ocean of space. The Council sent calls for aid, across every star system, every colony. But there was one world they feared to ask: Earth. 50 years ago, the Tarkale had saved humanity from extinction during the Great Collapse. In return, Earth had promised a debt of protection and loyalty. But after that, humans had vanished. No contact, no trade, no signals. It was as if the entire species had gone silent. Now, with the Erekar closing in, the Tarkale had no choice. They sent a final message. To the people of Earth. The debt remains. The galaxy burns. We call upon your promise. No one expected a reply. 3 weeks later, something strange happened. On the edge of Tarkale space, every long-range scanner froze. A deep, vibrating hum filled the frequencies, too powerful to be static, too controlled to be noise. Then, the stars blinked. A massive gravitational wave rippled across light years. Space itself seemed to fold, and out of that bending light came shapes, thousands of them. Dark, sharp, and silent. Ships. Human ships. But not like the old ones. These were different, larger, sleeker, and somehow alive. Their black armor shone like obsidian under the dim starlight. Crimson lines of energy pulsed along their surfaces, flowing like blood through veins. The largest ship in front carried a name engraved in glowing red letters: Unerner, 7. From the Tarkale command ship, Admiral Xora watched in disbelief. What is that? No one answered. Every officer stood frozen, eyes wide, watching the human fleet take formation. A voice came through the communication channel, calm, deep, and human. This is Admiral Yara Trent of the Solarchal Fleet. Transmission code Delta 5 Prime. The debt is acknowledged. Payment is due. Then, silence. Across the galaxy, every race listened in shock. The humans had returned, but not as the weak species they once were. The energy readings from their ships were off the charts. Some scientists said the human fleet's reactors bent gravity itself. Others claimed they had learned how to weaponize black holes. Admiral Xora tried to speak again, but her voice trembled. Human fleet. The Erekar are approaching the core worlds. Can you? Before she could finish, 1,000 red lights flashed across the human formation. The ships shifted like a living wall, engines glowing a deep red. They didn't need coordinates. They already knew. In one swift motion, the entire fleet entered slipspace. No countdown. No warning. Just a single word from Admiral Trent, carried through every open channel. Engaging. Moments later, the Tarkale sensors lit up with a shockwave. The Erekar Swarm, halfway through its march, suddenly changed direction, as if something massive had appeared right in their path. And then, the feed went white. For a long time, there was nothing. Only static. But slowly, through the haze, one signal returned, an image of a burning Erekar battleship, split in half by a red beam of impossible power. The humans had arrived. And the galaxy trembled once more. The Erekar Swarm stretched across the void like a storm made of living metal. Each creature was a ship and a weapon combined, wings of razor bone, bodies made of black crystal, eyes burning with cold light. They fed on energy, tearing apart reactors and stars. Now, they faced something they had never seen before. The human fleet. When the humans came out of slipspace, the Erekar turned as one. They screamed in the vacuum, their collective voice echoing through the communication channels, a sound like claws scraping on steel. But the humans did not answer. They simply advanced. The Unerner, 7, leading the charge, was vast, larger than any dreadnought. Its hull glowed with slow red pulses, like the heartbeat of a sleeping beast. Behind it, thousands of smaller ships formed perfect lines, each moving with impossible coordination. From the Tarkale command post, Admiral Xora and her crew watched the battle feed in silence. "Are they insane?" one officer whispered. They're outnumbered 10-1. Xora said nothing. She only stared as the human fleet stopped. For a heartbeat, nothing happened. Then, the void lit up. Beams of red energy fired in all directions. Not lasers, something denser, slower, bending the light around them. Wherever those beams touched, Erekar ships melted into ash, vanishing before they could even scream. The Tarkhael officers gasped. What kind of weapon is that? No readings. It's like they're firing gravity itself. The Erekar tried to fight back. Their swarm moved like a sea of fire, pouring toward the human formation. They fired bolts of plasma that could melt moons. But the human shields shimmered, absorbing the hits like waves breaking against stone. Every time an Erekar ship came close, it was torn apart by red light. Admiral Yara Trent stood on the bridge of Immerse 7, eyes calm and voice steady. Squadrons Beta and Delta, hold formation. Focus fire on Cluster 9. Maintain frequency link. Her crew moved with quiet precision, not a single word wasted. One officer turned to her. "Ma'am, Erekar numbers are increasing. They're calling reinforcements." Trent nodded once. "Then we will show them what we've learned in the dark." She touched the console. Across the fleet, thousands of red runes appeared, pulsing with energy. "Prepare the Singularity Lances." The command echoed through every ship. Massive structures unfolded from the human vessels, spinning rings of glowing energy, humming with a sound deeper than thunder. The Erekar Swarm charged again, covering the stars like a black tide. Then the lances fired. The darkness of space folded inward. Tiny black holes appeared for a split second, swallowing everything nearby, Erekar ships, debris, even light itself. The void twisted, then snapped back with a shockwave that shook every sensor in the galaxy. When the light returned, half the Erekar fleet was gone. Admiral Xora stared at the feed, her hands trembling. "They've weaponized singularities," she whispered. "They've turned gravity into a gun." But the humans did not stop. They pushed forward, ship after ship, into the heart of the swarm. Every explosion painted the stars red. Every strike echoed like thunder across the void. Finally, the Erekar Queen appeared, a monstrous being the size of a planet, wings stretching across the void, mouth glowing with pure energy. She screamed, and entire fleets cracked under the pressure. But Admiral Trent didn't flinch. "Target acquired," she said softly. "All ships, focus fire." The human fleet unleashed every weapon they had. The Queen tried to absorb the energy, but it was too much. Her body cracked, then imploded into a silent burst of light. The Erekar Swarm scattered. The battle was over. For a long moment, the galaxy was quiet. The humans didn't celebrate. They simply turned their ships, forming a silent wall between the surviving fleets and the burning stars beyond. Admiral Trent sent one final message to the galaxy. "The debt is repaid. Humanity stands ready." And with that, the fleet vanished into the dark, leaving only red trails fading in the endless black. The battle was over. Silence filled the void where the Erekar Swarm had once been. The stars, dimmed by war, now shone quietly again. Debris floated across the empty battlefield, fragments of the swarm, burned and twisted by the impossible weapons of humankind. Across the galaxy, every world listened to the same report. The Erekar are gone. The Tarkhael Dominion could hardly believe it. Empires that had once laughed at humanity now spoke their name in whispers. The oldest races, those who had watched civilizations rise and fall, stared at the data streams in disbelief. Humanity had done what none of them could do. They had ended a threat that devoured entire galaxies. But the victory was too perfect. Admiral Xora stood on the bridge of her flagship, watching the red glow fade from her sensors. The human fleet was still there, massive, silent, and unmoving. Thousands of ships, all pointed toward the Tarkhael lines. No signals. No requests for aid. Just silence. "Why don't they respond?" one officer asked. "They saved us," another whispered. "But are we next?" Xora didn't answer. She watched as the humans began to move. Slowly, like a single organism, the entire fleet turned toward deep space, toward the black beyond the galactic rim. Their engines burned crimson, but no sound followed. One by one, The ships entered slipspace, vanishing into nothingness. Within minutes, they were gone. Only Anurner, 7 remained. It drifted closer to the Tarkale flagship, and for a brief moment, both ships shared the same orbit around the burned-out moon of Vera 9. Then, a transmission came through, simple, clear, and unmistakably human. Debt repaid. With interest. Do not call us again. And then, the flagship vanished too. Weeks passed. The galaxy rebuilt itself. The Erekar threat was gone, but so was the peace people expected. Something new had taken its place: fear. Every species began to wonder the same thing. What had humanity become in their isolation? 50 years in silence. What had they done, what had they built, and what had they sacrificed to become this powerful? Rumors spread faster than light. Some said the humans had merged with machines. Others claimed they had harnessed black holes as energy sources. A few whispered that they had found something older, a power from before the dawn of stars. But none of it was certain, because no one could find them. All contact with Earth, Mars, and every known human colony was gone. Their worlds were empty, silent planets with no signals, no cities, no life. As if the entire species had stepped out of existence. The Tarkale Council gathered, their chambers filled with nervous voices. They saved us, one said, but at what cost? They used weapons that could destroy stars. If they turn on us, then we will not survive, Xora interrupted quietly. The room fell silent. Outside the window, the stars shimmered, calm, distant, beautiful. But to Xora, they seemed to tremble. Because she understood something the others didn't. The humans had not left because they were done fighting. They had left because they were preparing for something greater, something the rest of the galaxy was not ready to face. Far beyond the galactic rim, in the endless dark, the human Solarchal Fleet regrouped around a massive artificial world, a sphere made of black glass, pulsing with red light. Inside its core, Admiral Yara Trent stood before a holographic display showing new signals, not from the Erekar, but from something else. It's moving this way, her second officer said. And it's bigger than anything we've seen. Trent nodded slowly, her eyes calm. Then we will be ready. The galaxy called once. We answered. This time, we call ourselves. Outside, the sphere glowed brighter. The stars bent slightly around it. Humanity was no longer a part of the galaxy. They had become something beyond it. And though peace returned to the stars, every world, every empire, remembered one thing. When humanity repaid their debt, the galaxy trembled. 10 years passed after the Erekar War. The galaxy had begun to heal, new colonies were growing, trade routes reopening, and peace treaties signed between ancient rivals. But even in peace, there was fear. No one forgot the humans. Children were told stories of the Red Fleet that came from nowhere and vanished into the dark. Priests whispered that humanity had become the guardians of the void. Others called them the debt collectors. But to most, they were just a myth, ghosts that once burned the stars. Then one night, the myth returned. It began near the edge of the Arden Expanse, a quiet region of space filled with young suns and new worlds. A Tarkale mining colony there sent out a distress signal, weak, broken, filled with static. The message lasted only 6 seconds, but those 6 seconds froze the council in fear. The recording showed shadows, not ships, but enormous shapes moving behind the stars. Something was devouring entire systems, leaving only silence behind. No explosion. No radiation. Just nothing. The council sent fleets, probes, everything they had, and every one of them vanished. Until, finally, the surviving colonies sent one final message. It's not Erekar. It's something older. It doesn't feed on light. It feeds on existence. Then, silence again. Admiral Xora, older now, stood before the council. There is only one species that can face this, she said. And they will not answer unless the galaxy kneels. The council argued for days. Some said humanity was gone forever. Others said summoning them would bring destruction. But as more systems disappeared, fear became stronger than pride. So, they called. The same message that had once been sent to Earth echoed again through the void. To humanity. The debt is reversed. The galaxy now owes you. We call for aid." For weeks, nothing happened. Then, the stars blinked again. From the black of space, gravity folded, and 1,000 red lines appeared. The human Solarchal Fleet had returned. Their ships were different now, sharper, heavier, built for something far beyond war. Each vessel moved as if space itself obeyed them. Their presence bent light, their energy signatures unreadable. Admiral Yara Trent stood once again on the bridge of Immerse 7, her face calm but her eyes darker than before. "They called," she said softly, "and we answer, one last time." The Solarchal Fleet, waiting nearby, opened comms immediately. "Admiral Trent, the enemy, it consumes systems. We can't detect it." "We know," she interrupted. "We've seen it before." The council went silent. "What do you mean?" Trent's voice was steady. "It was the reason we left. We've been preparing for it ever since." The human fleet moved forward, engines glowing like dying suns. Scanners across the galaxy watched as they entered the Arden Expanse, the same region where all others had vanished. Then, all signals went dark. For 3 days, there was nothing. No transmissions. No readings. Only stillness. On the 4th day, the sky itself changed. Every world across the known galaxy saw the same thing, a line of red light stretching across the stars, like a wound in space. And then, a voice echoed through every device, every channel, every frequency. "Humanity stands. The galaxy will not fall." The red line pulsed once, and then the stars bent inward, collapsing like water swirling down a drain. The entity that devoured worlds was pulled into the center of that light, trapped, sealed inside a singularity made of human technology and will. When it ended, the light faded. The stars returned. And the human fleet was gone once more. Weeks later, the Solarchal received a single encrypted message. It was short, but it carried more weight than 1,000 speeches. "Balance restored. Humanity remains beyond the veil." Xora listened to the message again and again, her voice barely a whisper. "They saved us again, and left us again." Outside her ship, the stars shone brighter than before, but she couldn't shake the feeling that something unseen still watched from beyond them. Because somewhere, in the deep dark beyond the edge of the galaxy, humanity waited, silent, patient, eternal. Not as conquerors, not as saviors, but as the watchers of the void, the final guardians of creation. And across the stars, every being, every world, every empire remembered the same truth. When humanity returned, the galaxy trembled once more. 1,000 years had passed. The Erekar War and the Second Dark Age were now only stories, tales told to children around flickering campfires on distant worlds. The galaxy had changed. Empires had risen and fallen. Species had evolved, migrated, and forgotten. But one thing remained, the legend of the humans. No one had seen them for centuries. No signal. No ship. No trace of their home world. Even Earth itself had become a mystery, a lost coordinate that no map could find. To most, the humans were myths. To others, gods. The archives of the Solarchal still held records, recordings of the Red Fleet, data logs of impossible technology, and the voice of Admiral Yara Trent saying, "Balance restored. Humanity remains beyond the veil." But no one knew what the veil meant. Until now. In the far edge of the Orion Arm, a small science ship from the Ven Coalition discovered something. A signal, faint, ancient, but still repeating after 1,000 years. The crew followed it through empty space until they reached a region where stars seemed wrong. The light bent strangely, as if reality itself had a heartbeat. At the center of that distortion floated a sphere, a colossal structure the size of a moon, made of smooth black metal that shimmered faintly with red light. Scanners could not identify it. No material matched. No entrance could be found. And yet, every being on the ship felt it, a presence, silent but watching. "It's looking at us," one of them whispered. "No," their captain replied softly. "It's waiting." As the crew approached, the structure suddenly came to life. Red lines pulsed across its surface, tracing patterns like veins awakening after long sleep. A low vibration filled the air, not sound, but something deeper, like a heartbeat echoing through time. Then a voice spoke. Come, human, timeless, to those who come after us. We are humanity, the children of soul. We once owed a debt. We repaid it in blood, fire, and silence. We stood when the galaxy trembled, and we watched when it healed. The voice paused, the stars dimming slightly as if they were listening. We are no longer among you. We walk beyond the veil, a place where stars are born and die in the same breath. But know this, if darkness ever rises again, if existence itself trembles, you will not stand alone. A bright light burst from the sphere, expanding outward like a wave of dawn. Every ship in nearby systems received the same message, the same signal. It spread across the galaxy in hours, reaching every world, every mind, every being. And in that light, for a moment, the image of humanity appeared, a vast fleet sailing through the void, red and gold, endless in number. Then the light faded, and the sphere went dark again. The Ven scientists tried for years to open the structure, to understand the technology. They failed. No scan, no weapon, no key could unlock it. But sometimes, when the stars were quiet and the void was calm, they swore they could still hear the heartbeat, slow, deep, eternal. Centuries later, historians would mark that day as the beginning of the Age of Renewal, when old rivalries ended and the galaxy united under a single idea, that even the smallest race could rise, defend, and transcend. Every academy, every monument, every world carried the same words etched in red. Here stands the legacy of humanity. They repaid their debt. And the galaxy still trembles. Far beyond the stars, past the edges of known space, something moved. A human hand pressed against a glass window, watching a newborn galaxy spin in silence. Admiral Yara Trent, ageless now, her eyes like burning suns, smiled faintly. "They remember," she whispered. "Good." She turned toward the horizon, where 1,000 stars began to flicker, warning lights on the edge of reality. Then our watch continues. The red glow of the human Solarchal Fleet reignited once more, spreading like embers across the void. And somewhere, deep within the cosmic silence, the universe seemed to whisper back, HFY.